Kevin Harris was the one who told me about you initially, and I think that's where the story starts. And that was, I think, almost that's like 8 years ago, because your first profile in Concrete Wave was in a buyer's guide, which is always our big issue. And I did some research. That issue came out in 2016. So it probably was one of these things where I probably met you in 2015 at the World Freestyle at the Cloverdale. And then I think Kevin said, listen, I'll do this piece for you in Concrete Wave. I wrote this practically 8 years ago. Here's what I said. When Kevin Harris told me about Andy Anderson, a skater who effortlessly blends street, freestyle, and vert skating into one incredible package, I was amazed. For me, Andy truly personifies the best of what skateboarding represents: freedom to ride, freedom to explore, but most of all, the freedom to be yourself. I think it holds true, but I think even more so, Andy, I think the last 8 to 10 years of your career, I mean, you've taken that and put steroids onto it.
I really appreciate that, Michael, and that definitely was a time when Kevin Harris was the guy that was hyping me up, and nobody else really wanted anything to do with me. And it means a lot that you made that decision to put me in your magazine, and like that. I had no following, no nothing at that point, and it's just so nice to be recognized for the things that I was getting dismissed for. The fact that I was freestyle skateboarding, the fact that I was doing freestyle and bowl and street together, and I feel like there was this one Skull Skates shirt. It was a big yin yang, and instead of the two circles, it was like a street skater silhouette and an old school skater silhouette, like doing like a Burt slide. And I was just like, that's it. But where's the freestyle skater, you know? And just trying to balance those, and working a lot with Kevin Harris. He would always say that uh, when street started, it was like maybe 89, he would have these talks. Or what I should say is when freestyle died in 1989 ish, he would have these talks with Stacy Peralta where they say, what's next? Like, what's the next big wave in skateboarding? And Kevin would say that they agreed that it would be freestyle and street mixed. Like, who's going to take the freestyle stuff to the street? And I was just like, getting those messages in my head when I was a kid was like really, really strong, you know? So at 2016, I would have been 20 years old. It's a trippy thought. Like, that is my first exposure, first printed anything, man.
Well, I look at it now and I think, it's one thing for Kevin Harris to say, it's another thing for me. I'm up here in Toronto, whatever. But honestly, the one critical thing I take from this is Stacy Peralta. I don't know if you recall this, but in this profile of you, Kevin Harris actually interviews Stacy and says, what strikes you as the most intriguing aspect of Andy's abilities? He says, his total absence of discrimination towards skateboarding. He looks at every aspect of skating as potential, which allows his mind to roam free so he can create maneuvers and connections that we have not yet seen.
I definitely would lean into the compliments that he gave me and like try to try to emphasize those attributes, you know? So that helps a lot. I feel like Stacy is very very spiritually aware, and like he has this guiding essence to him. I don't know, man. It feels so amazing to have been recognized so young. And even when I go back and I watch the videos from back then, I'm like, how did he see anything in that guy? You know? But I think freestyle and wearing a helmet and all that stuff was just so weird. I don't know what else to say, man.
I think one of the things I'm really confident in saying this is that part of your, I guess, aura, if I can use that word, or part of your mechanics as a skater is that you seem to be this unique combination of magician and artist. You see things that most people don't. And I think people feed off of that. And I'd like maybe to unpack that in a little bit more. You are a unique combination of both, as I said, artist and magician. It's an interesting blend.
Thank you, man. I always see skateboarding as an art, but recently I've been trying to break into the art world, and it's like it's really hard to prove that skateboarding is an art. Like, I know in my soul it is, but it's really hard to show how much of an art it really is, and how much passion goes into it, and how much time goes into these little moments. When you do a trick, it's very ethereal, like it doesn't actually exist anywhere. And when you film a trick, it's the filmer's art. When you take a photograph, it's the photograph, like it's the photographer's art. So where's my art actually exist, if not just a moment, you know?
I'm curious, like, what type of art are you creating? Because I'm also into it, and yeah, I'd love to hear you talk about that.
I'm trying to figure out how to make the boards that I skate for monumental tricks considered their own sort of sculptures. I do sketches, I do art like that, but nothing I've ever done has as much emotion and as much focus and power in it than those boards themselves, you know? I don't know how to convey that to, let's say, an artist who doesn't understand skateboarding. Part of me doesn't want the art part of it to be any sort of afterthought, you know? Like I was told maybe I could paint a picture of the board or draw it or write a story. And writing a story actually resonates really deeply with me because I do write. But the Olympic board's a great example because that board is in the Olympic Museum in Switzerland.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, so that board is the exception
Why is it in the museum, Andy?
because it was the first year for the Olympics. They had like, I don't know, like a bin or a guy coming by saying, "Hey, we're like collecting like memorabilia or things from this experience." And I gave him one of the mind control helmets, and I gave him my board, and it's on display.
I just watched you, and my jaw was dropping because at each moment where I thought, "There's no way he's going to make it out of it. Like it's just not possible. It's not rescuable." And there you are. You just land on the board. Even when you did something like the Nada spin on the fire hydrant at the Tampa thing, people are losing their minds. Like it's just not conceivable, right? For a lot of people that you're just able to pull apart things and see things that no one else sees. And I think that's part of the joy, and that's part of the artistry of it.
I really appreciate that, Michael. I think more and more people are skating creatively these days, and it's so cool to see. I feel like danger and speed will always kind of trump creativity and stuff in a sense of like what's cool, but what's respected, I feel like it's closer than it's ever been.
Is there something that you can point to that's got nothing to do with skateboarding that allows you to be this bridge?
I can't say there was any Andy before skateboarding since I did start at age 4. Like I think it's all just been skateboarding, and I think a lot of it does come down to mentors like Hippie Mike. You know, when I was a kid, Hippie Mike rode uh what is it, like 95A rat bones, like old stock. They weren't current wheels, you know. I started working with Mike when I was 7, and that's when I fully committed to skateboarding and quit everything else. And then he was teaching me tricks like airwalks and how to carve bowls. And like my introduction to skateboarding was so not kickflip no slides.
I can't read your mind. I don't know what's inside you. But whenever I watch your videos, I feel like I'm riding with you. I feel included. Why? Because you're throwing tricks in there that I can identify. It's almost like a radio station that plays one familiar song and then a song that people don't know, followed by a familiar song. You're giving people a lifeline, you know? Oh, yeah, I know what that is. They can identify. And then you take them out and then you put them back in. So I think it's brilliant. I mean, again, it's part of what makes you you, and why I think people identify. It's because everybody can see something.
Oh man, like totally being able to bring tricks into the mainstream of just like this is just because this guy can do it and can't do that doesn't mean that this is easier than that. These are two completely different skill sets. And unless you practice them, like that's why so few people freestyles because it's so damn hard. Sure, they want to learn how to do it, but they can't just learn it in a Sunday afternoon. They could do a poor version of it in a Sunday afternoon and then say, okay, I learned the trick, whatever. But like, you don't just learn any high level trick from any style that quickly. I feel like that's something that I do intentionally put in my projects is trying to draw relationships between difficulty of tricks. And one thing I try to do, which isn't in my next project, is like trying to do at least one trick in each part that anybody could go out and learn. But I gotta admit that's not in this next part that's coming out. When I work on a video project, that's like my jam. You know what I mean? You work on it for like 2 or 3 years, and then when it finally comes out, it's like a whole release of not only footage but like emotional release of like, okay, I can lie down now. You know?
Is it something that you make for yourself, you put out, and then you're on to the next one? Like, what is that relationship like?
It's such a weird thing, you know, because people praise me for not following any rules, but like I can only break rules because I understand them. You know what I mean? Part of it comes from ignorance, but part of it comes from like studying. And for the Olympics, for example, it's just a great example to pull from. You can go on Netflix, I believe, and watch The Weight of Gold, and it talks about the massive depression that pretty much every Olympian falls into for the following months because you like put everything you have into this one moment. So I feel like when I release the part, as excited as I'm planning on being, I have to be prepared for a kind of depression to fall on because like yeah, I do it for myself, but I definitely care what people think at the end of the day to some degree, you know? There's definitely a sad aspect to it and like now what like now I got to film another one or what's next, you know? And that was really hard for the Olympics was after the Olympics it's like okay, am I going to the next one? Am I dedicating the next 4 years of my life to hopefully try and make it to a thing so I can skate for 45 seconds again? You know what I mean? Like it's a trip, you know, and you really got to make these decisions for yourself, each individual person. What's it worth to you in particular? Because what's it worth to someone else is totally different, you know? When people say, like, you're my idol, I have a hard time not commenting back and be like, yo, be careful with idols. Like, that's a slippery slope there, you know what I mean? And encouraging people to think for themselves. I always appreciate the support and I'm so thankful that so many people seem to understand the message that I'm trying to convey, you know, or it resonates with them. The fact that they get it is unbelievable. And that's one thing that's like always shocked my dad is like my dad will be like, "I know what you're trying to say because I raised you, but like how are these random people seeing a 10-minute video and they get your philosophy, you know?" And that's a mystery that I really can't express enough, like how much of a mystery that is.
I was on your YouTube channel the other day, and I like just binged all of the one take videos that you were doing, like just like the vertical. Dude, I love that form of video. I would love to see more of that.
Thanks, dude. That's motivating. I often sleep on that channel a lot, and it's like the whole idea for that channel, my personal channel, was I don't want to edit anything. I don't want anything to be like fake or compromised. I just want to, oh, I'm feeling good. Let's pull out the camera for however long until it's awkward, and then turn it off. Or maybe we push through that awkward wall and keep going. But like whatever. It's funny, right? Because I'm on so many other people's channels, and a lot of the viewers will tell me like, well, these guys are using you. You know what I mean? Like they're just using you to get views. And I'm like, yeah, but if I'm not on their channel, then what videos do I have, bro? You know, like, they're the whole reason I'm getting any viewership at all. You know, like part of me is like, I got to start my own channel, but then I'm like, dude, this is a lot of work. Like they put in a lot of work to film those videos. You know.
I'm intrigued to know, outside of skateboarding, what artists or philosophies or what environments you found yourself in that has kind of nurtured this nonconformity?
I've always been a fan of like outsider music and anti-pop musicians like Tom Waits or even like Frank Zappa or just anything that was. I always thought it was hilarious. This one moment in Frank Zappa's Joe's Garage album, they're playing a song purposely annoying, and in the background you can hear the supposed mom of Joe going, "Turn that down." And I was playing it in the car going to school one time with my mom, and she said, "Turn that down in tune." Like at the exact moment when "Turn That Down" was said by the mom in the song. That sort of stuff. I feel like when you follow a formula that you know works and it works again, it's just not that exciting.
Do you have any literature or any authors you want to maybe recommend or talk about? Anyone who's had any impact on you?
Man, the Rick Rubin creative act, holy, that just verified so many internal thoughts that I've had and helped me clean up my brain a lot. I have this opinion, I have this opinion, I don't know how valid they are. And then you have someone like Rick Rubin telling you, like, this is a way. And you're like, oh, sick. I'm on the same journey as this list of guys, you know? Like that was super validating. And the other guy that I just absolutely adore to death and will forever not understand is Carl Jung. For Christmas, my mom got me the reader's edition of the Red Book. Have you heard of the Red Book?
No, I haven't. No.
So the Red Book is his personal writings. These years when he was delving into his subconscious. When trying to articulate that, he ended up inventing psychology. It's kind of scary, dude. Like it's kind of like a weird journey. I can relate in the sense of like sometimes these crazy things that we see or whatever in our mind are actually leading us somewhere.
With mind control, what's in the future for that? I know you have helmets, you're restocking those. Are you planning on like bringing out some other stuff or?
Now, mind control is a tricky one for me because I'm really not that like I've been wanting to do the helmets for so long, but it's such a tricky business. But mind control is somewhat of an art spot for me, right? So that's where all my art ends up eventually. So I actually just put out 3 new T-shirts and a sweater, or maybe 2 new T-shirts and a sweater, like a couple weeks ago. But I haven't had the energy to advertise it. So here's the advertisement. It's a trip, you know. I can only do so much promotion when I'm not skating. I feel like I have to be like actually skating a certain amount for my promotion to mean anything. Otherwise it just looks like I'm just trying to promote things all the time. That's my own conflict, you know what I mean?
What can we look forward to in 2024 in terms of your travels? Are there places you've got lined up currently, or is it on a need to know basis type of thing?
I feel like the last year I've had my nose to the grindstone working and not really in the public as much as in the past years. So this year I'm going to try my best to take some time off and enjoy skateboarding, but also all the projects I was working on last year are going to come out. So that's nice. So I feel like last year I did a lot of work and not so much FaceTime, and this year it's going to be more FaceTime and all the work's going to come out. So I'm just excited to share with the world what I've been working on in the dark ages.
Your skating represents so much to what I feel the embodiment of what concrete waves is. You are the epitome of somebody who can ride a concrete wave. Doesn't matter when, where, or how. You're just out there. And, that's my belief, and I'm sticking to it.
Thanks, man. I had the best experience ever like 2 days ago. It was my first time riding in a couple weeks. And I saw this little driveway, like super mellow slope. And I was like, man, it's going to feel so good to do a frontside power slide just on this tiny little concrete wave, right? And I did it and it felt great. And then I hear, excuse me, and it's like this older couple, and they got these 2 young children, maybe their grandchildren or maybe their kids. I don't want to judge. And they go, can you do that again? I want to show my kids that, And like they didn't They don't care if I'm Andy Anderson or whatever. They just saw a dude doing a power slide on a concrete wave, man. You know, and they're like, I want to share this with my kids. You know, these guys are like younger than I was when I started, and it's just like that's what it's all about. That made me really feel like, man, that's what this is for.